Hello, everybody. This is Psychic Soul Senses here. And today I have a special guest with me, and her name is Beth Rist, and she was a former Ironton Police Department sergeant. And she is here today to tell us her story. She has wrote a book, and it should be out in December. And she's going to tell us all about it today, and we're going to listen. We're going to let her talk. So, Beth, tell us a little bit
Hi,
about
good.
yourself.
Okay, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Um, Basically, I'm just going to talk about my background. I was born here in Ironton, raised on 7th Street, 2600 block of South 7th, and I grew up loving basketball and football, playing in the streets with all the kids on the block, and we basically just we had a lot of families on that block, the Wismans, the Nunleys, the Wises, we had a bunch of kids that always played in the street. Back then, you didn't have to worry about locking your doors, and you could play till the street lights came on and all that. So that's what I did growing up. And I also was involved in baton and dance and pageants, along with my sisters, Teresa and Cindy. Uh, we would go to competitions on Saturdays, and our mother made all of our outfits and gowns for pageants and stuff like that. Um, my
Oh,
mom
that's
made a deal
cool.
with me. Pardon me.
I said, that's cool.
Um, my mom made a deal with me that if I practiced, thank you. She made a deal with me that if I practiced baton on Sundays and Mondays, uh, that I could go play basketball on 8th Street Park afterwards with my friends. And so I didn't really enjoy that baton and dance, but I was pretty good at it. So I competed and at the state level and stuff like that. So, um, but the baton and dance and the pageants taught me self discipline and confidence and how to be a teammate with others. The basketball taught me about aggressive competition and showmanship. So it was the basketball that eventually paid my way through college at University of Charleston in West Virginia um, in 80 through 84, where I studied physical education and health. But I went to Ironton High School, where I had many friends, but I also had bullies. So I think that they're everywhere around us. So now I've been bullied for being pretty when I
Right.
was young, and I have been bullied for being ugly at 60. So, wow, what a world we live in, right? But
This is true.
it is true.
All right, hang on a
But
second.
I was major
I'm
at,
trying to pull up some
okay,
pictures. Let me
okay,
see if I can get this. Um,
take your time.
yeah, I have to. I'm gonna see if I can find these, and we'll pull them up as you're talking.
Okay,
Go ahead, Beth.
okay. Well, in high school, I was involved in, I was a majorette my sophomore and junior year. My senior year, I was the first field commander um, in 1980, which directed the band on the field, and I loved it. When I came home from college, I would teach other girls that were trying out for it, and I enjoyed that. And like I mentioned, I went to college on a partial basketball scholarship. And after I made All American my sophomore year, I got a full scholarship. Um, After college, um, I moved to Myrtle Beach with some friends of mine for 2 summers and winters. Um, in the summertime, I was the lifeguard on the beach. There was 124 guards on the beach, and there was only two women. and my stand was right in front of the boardwalk, uh, where the Bowery is. Are you familiar with the Bowery at Myrtle Beach? It's a bar where Alabama
Mm.
was discovered.
Oh, okay. No, I had no idea Alabama was discovered in our area.
In Myrtle Beach.
Oh, in Myrtle Beach. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. And
Okay.
but anyway, I did that for 2 summers, and it was so nice to see my friends from Ironton that come to Myrtle Beach for vacation, and to get to talk to everybody from Ironton when I was lifeguarding, and it was a couple of years that I'll never forget. I really enjoyed it. Um, After those amazing years, I got a job. I came back home, and I got a job at Armco Steel, where my father worked his entire life. So yes, he did help me get a job at Armco. Um, it's over in Ashland, Kentucky. It's not there anymore. It used to be AK Steel after Armco, and
Hmm.
but me and my father were not very close because he had left when I was 14 years old, and my parents got divorced. But he did help me get a job there on the labor gang, where I worked there until 1992, when everyone got laid off in 92. um, I chose not to go to Middletown, Ohio to transfer. And so I decided to, they helped you get another job through the employment services. And so I decided to go to welding school in Ashland, Kentucky. Well, I didn't like that. I didn't enjoy that very much. So after that, um, I went to welding school, and then I decided that I wanted to be a cop. I'd always wanted to be a cop. I called when I was 21, the police academy in London. When I was 21 years old, I had called. I remember from my upstairs in my bedroom and called and asked how much it costs and all that. And I didn't have the money when I was 21 to go through it. And but when I was young, I used to wear my hair like, I think you got a picture of it. Wear my hair like
Yeah, I'm having a hard time pulling pictures up, but yeah, I love those pictures you sent. I wish I could pull them up. Um, it keeps breaking up when I try to pull them up, but she sent me some good pictures. There's her in her uniform for the band thing you were talking about, the basketball
drum major.
team,
Yeah.
and it's awesome. I mean, there's some good pictures, and I'm trying to pull them up, but I'll try to get them while we're talking. But yeah,
Oh, you're
she's
fine. You're
got some
fine.
good pictures here, guys.
But anyway,
All right, go ahead.
I used to. I never missed an episode of Charlie's Angels. That's what made me want to be a cop, because I had that long blonde hair, and I wore it like Farrah, and
Hmm.
I just loved that show, and it just made me really want to be. I thought it was the deal to be a cop. I just wanted to be one. I when they did the test they did at Armco on you, where they test all your qualifications, I scored 98 percentile in protective instincts. But and I've got all that paperwork still.
Cool.
But I got a job. So they paid for me to go to the police academy. Armco did, and bought me my first gun, which was a Ruger. And I went to the police academy in '94 in Gallipolis, Ohio, and I graduated June 1995. And I got a job at Proctorville Police Department, which is about, well, you know where Proctorville is from here. How far would you say that is away? About 20
Hmm.
minutes. And
Yeah.
so I worked there for a year. And then in late 1995, I took the test, the written test and the physical fitness test at Ironton, my hometown. Um, and I got hired in Ironton. My first day was February 2nd, 1996. as the first female in the history of the city, not the county. I believe the county already had a female, but the city hadn't never had one. Um, Everyone appeared to be real nice at first, and it was only about 3 weeks before things started to change. People would call in and say, have that woman cop come to our intersection because the kids are playing and people are running the stop sign. Well, that made other officers mad because people were requesting me to come to their intersections. Um, so that started bad feelings. So then they decided that they would take me off the road. They decided they'd take me off the road and that
They
I
yeah,
needed to
they
be.
don't want anybody nice out there. You can't have no one nice. And since you were being requested, oh, we got to get her out. We got to get her back somewhere where they can't see her.
Right. And so they told me I had to be trained as a dispatcher. So that was fine. They
Wow.
took me off the road, and they knew I loved the road, so they took that away from me. Um, I sat with dispatchers for about 2.5 months, and I hated it. And you could tell by my voice on the radio that I didn't enjoy it. Everybody had scanners back then. Everybody did. Um, So then I started to like dispatching. So whenever I propped my feet up and I would put my hands behind my head and lean back in my chair, that made them mad. So they put me back on the road. Um, so anything I enjoyed, they made sure I didn't get to do it. Anything I hated, they made sure I did it. Um, so childish. I mean, just so childish. But I did my job and I wrote tickets and I was very professional and nice while doing so. That uniform doesn't make you better than anybody else. It's just a job. And when I'd give somebody a ticket, I'd
This is
explain
true.
that it was just my job and that it was nothing personal. And and they understood and they were very nice. And there were some older officers that were burnt out of being a cop. And I know you understand what I'm saying when I mean burnout. After so many years, I'm sure you
Hmm.
get burned out. I didn't, uh, but I was only there for 13, 14
Hmm.
years. So, but these guys have been there for years and years and years, and they just didn't want to. They didn't want to go out and pull people over. They wanted to sit at the station and stay there and if you were captain, you didn't have to do anything. You could go to your house and sit in your house all day, um, and they were not to be
Wow.
bothered. Um, but anyway, I was just really gung ho, and they hated me for it. I mean, the morale was very low there, and so when I come in gung ho like that, they just hated me for it. So as the story goes, my supervisors started nitpicking my paperwork and memos and reprimands, started filling my jacket, of course. Remarks were made and
Wow.
rubbers were put on my
I got to
windshield
ask a
wiper.
question.
Okay, go ahead.
Wow. I mean, blatant harassment. I asked someone not long ago when I drive into Ironton, immediately I feel a negative feeling. Okay. And I feel like it's starting to change a little bit, but because people are becoming more aware of it.
Right.
But I got to ask, did you have a quota? Because they lie about that. They say they don't have a quota.
Yes, we had a quota. It didn't. I don't think it started until about 2004. But we had a quota of 10 tickets a month, and I wrote about. Sometimes I wrote 10 tickets a day. I paid my salary. I earned it. But
Right.
yes, they do have a quota, and just like state troopers have quotas. I mean, that's just a fact. They did. A matter of fact, we
Hmm.
had paperwork that we had to fill out of everything we did, all of our arrests, all of our citations, everything, and the city council wanted copies of all that. so they could see who was the most productive officer. And so they got those reports monthly, um, and they went over those. But I loved my job. I did,
Well,
and
and
I would do it.
you can
I would do
see
it for
how
free.
it's like, right. And you can kind of see how, with what you're saying, that they were like, oh no, you can't have, it's already bad enough that a bunch of men that think they know everything already and, you know, are above women, they have now a female and she's doing their job better than them. So I can see how, you know, they were offended, I guess,
Well,
or felt.
they just continually like to give me a hard time, but I could take it. But it was stressful, and but the index cards with death threats on my in my mail slot. I mean, how stupid is that to put a death threat on an index card that said something bad is
Oh,
going to happen
wow.
to you, and then me have possession of it, and I kept it. So I mean,
Hmm.
my dear God, that's so stupid.
Yeah, it is.
But one day I was standing in the hallway, and this was before we got. This is where in the old police department across from the post office was. Still, we hadn't moved to the new building yet, and
Oh, wow.
there wasn't a women's locker room or anything in that old building. And every time I'd go in the bathroom, they would take their batons and slam them up against the bathroom door to try to scare me, I guess. Or it didn't bother me. It just made me jump a little bit because I wasn't, it's just something you don't expect when you're in the bathroom. But I was leaning up against the hallway one day, and an older officer that didn't like me at all, um, because every time you pull somebody over, somebody's got to come and back you up. And they didn't want to get out of the station. They didn't want
Right.
to leave the station. So they didn't want to be bothered with a 39 with me pulling somebody over. Um, so they told me to quit pulling people over, that they didn't want to fool with it. But one day I was standing in the hallway, leaned up against the wall, and this older officer punched me in the back. Well, my knees kind of buckled because
Mm.
I wasn't prepared for it. Somebody hitting you in the back. So this other officer immediately told me, he said, "Go to the hospital. That's not appropriate. Go to the hospital." So he was a sergeant, and the man that hit me was a captain, and um, so he was in line to be captain if something happened to that. He was in line to be captain if something had happened to that older officer. Um, so he stirred the pot by telling me to go to the hospital, which I did. And Nurse Jackie Lewis is a witness. She's the one that treated me, and hence there's the first lawsuit. Um, so uh, that was in let's see, 99, maybe 98, 90. Well, it didn't settle till 99, I think. Um, but the city attorneys offered me money to resign, and they passed a piece of paper over with a number on it. And I said, I'll take half that and keep my job because I've done nothing wrong. It's sexual harassment.
Hmm.
And so after the lawsuit, I think it was 99. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at my notes. But no one bothered me for about a year. Um, but back in the younger officers that were there, uh, they after they found out that treating me badly put them in good uh, findings with the superior officers that hated me. Um, so they joined in and would treat me badly too. So they would get points with the other officers. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. They got good credit with them because, you know, they wanted to put you down. So if someone new did, then, you know,
Right.
yep.
Um, so in May of 1998, there was training for bike patrol, and I jumped at the chance of that because I wanted it would keep me in great shape, and I just any challenge when it come to law enforcement, I was up for it. Um, I graduated with five others. We went to Marshall University in Huntington, West Virginia, for a week, and um, when we graduated, I mean, we got bikes from Jeff's bike shop up there in Huntington, and they were Treks. They were very expensive, and they were real nice. And they were built. They measured us for it, and they were built for us, our bodies. And but the first week we were allowed to ride, a captain told me, and his name's in the book. I'm not mentioning any names today, and I'm not just like I told you. I'm not going to say anything bad about anybody because this is just about my background. And if anybody wants to know anything, they can go to the other video where I explained the ticket and all that. But the first week we were allowed to ride the bikes. A captain told me that I was not to work the road today, that I was to collect every sign on every telephone pole in the city before I went home. Rummage sale signs and job signs. You understand what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm. You know what's
so
funny? You're saying that, and I'm thinking about all the papers that just rot off of the telephone poles. They never clear those off. And that
to
was
my knowledge,
your
they never do. Yeah.
job for the day.
Yeah, for 12 hours. So I did it for 12 hours. I had to go back and forth now on a bike. So I rode about 25 miles that day going back and forth because I only had this little this little bag on the back of my bike. And once it got full, I'd have to go to the police department, and I put them in the locker room, the new police department where I had my a women's locker room for the dispatchers and myself. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think Pam got hired then soon after that. I'm not sure what year she got hired in, Pam Wagner, who's now the chief.
Mm-hmm.
But after the 12 hours of taking all the signs down, then I got reprimanded for working unauthorized overtime. Well, I was ordered to not go home until I got all the signs down. So then they reprimanded me for working unauthorized overtime. But they didn't stop me. They could have stopped me at any time and said, you're not allowed overtime. Come on in. But they didn't. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so
That's like a setup.
yeah. Well, just everything was a double standard. With the money that I
Mm-hmm.
got from the first lawsuit, I put me in an in-ground pool at my house because I wanted something to have for the rest of my life to show for what I'd suffered through. And I didn't want to go on a trip or buy clothes or, you know, spend the money on frivolous
Right.
things. I wanted something I could enjoy the rest of my life. Well, my supervisor came to my house on my property and went up and talked to the guy that was building my pool. And I thought that was kind of odd. I mean, what's any didn't see what's going on. I thought that was strange, but his name's in the book too.
Hey, girls, stop yelling.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I had to tell my kids to quiet down.
How many kids you got?
Right now with me, I got five. They're my grandkids, and I
Wow.
got another one. He's with my aunt today, so that works out. He's little.
And you homeschool them. That's great.
Yes, yes, I like homeschool. Yeah, I want to mention to you guys. Did you know that in Rock Hill there's a group of little girls that are identifying as cats, and they want a litter box put in. Like, so yeah, I'm glad we don't go to Bricker.
That's
Yep,
crazy, but times are
it
changing.
is, isn't it? Yeah, and it's getting crazier.
I am. I'm just thinking here where I left off at. Oh, wasn't too long after the taking all the signs down, maybe 6 months, maybe. But I had a wreck on my bike, and your feet were strapped in on the bike. They had straps that go across your feet, so if you would wreck,
Ooh.
you couldn't put your feet down real quick. So I had an accident, and I was going pretty fast and hurt my knee. Well, so my supervisor at the time was now chief of police, and he called my doctor because I hurt my knee, and my doctor took me off work. He called my doctor and told my doctor, he said, "Can she sit at the station?" And I was on crutches, and my doctor said, "Well, yeah, but she has to keep her leg propped up on ice." And so they created light duty. Well, there never was light duty before that. Um, an older officer was hurt his shoulder and was off for 9 months, and he never got light duty. So they just didn't want me to be able to stay home and enjoy my pool. But they made sure that I sat there at the station. They gave me all kinds of assignments, and the chief, told me to start back years ago and do the arrest records cards. So I did that 8 hours a day for until my leg um, got got healed up. But what had happened was someone had cut my spoke, and the chief took the spoke up to Jeff's bike shop. Um, he said they accused me of cutting my own spoke on my bike. Um, so they took the spoke up to Jeff's bike shop, and they came back and brought the spoke and gave it back to me like idiot. I had it for the lawsuit. The spoke was cut. I called Jeff's myself. The spoke was cut, and they went to my house and got my tool from my tool belt, uh, thinking so they could match it up and see if I cut my own spoke. Well, after they determined I didn't cut it,
Oh, wow.
they dropped it. They just dropped the whole thing. No, but they wasn't no more investigation on it. Um,
Mm.
it's just been there's so much. There's just so much over that period of time in my life. But okay, let's see. What was I talking about? Then these are just only a few examples
And
of
it was
how I
after
was
the
treated.
spoke investigation.
Yes,
Okay.
these are just a few examples of how I was treated on a daily basis, and the ticket with the lawsuit, that was just a way to get rid of me because I had just 3 years prior passed the sergeant's test and was the first sergeant, female sergeant. So in 2005. So somebody saying that I went up the ranks quickly. Well, from 1996 to 2005, I don't think that's very quick. Um, but anyway,
Right.
the rest I'll let you read in the book, but I explained the ticket in a video prior to this, and it's on my YouTube channel. And so I had to get attorneys out of Cincinnati and um, sue them again uh, because they uh, fired me over. the ticket. Now, I had a grievance I filed, and the prosecuting attorney at the time called my attorney, my local attorney that took care of the case. He was the only one brave enough. I will mention his name, Warren Morford Jr. He was the only attorney brave enough to take
Hmm.
on the city where he worked. So, and we won arbitration, which is a legal binding contract. And I'm sure you've seen that article when you research me. Um,
Yep.
but they then they let city council vote to whether give me my job back, and they voted for me not to get it back. So um, I went through the court proceedings, and the lawsuit, and the girl that I had. I'll repeat this one section about the video I did already, but the girl that I had given the ticket to testified under oath in Supreme Court depositions in Cincinnati, one in Cincinnati and one
Hmm.
at Ohio University, Southern over here, um, testified that they threatened to take her kids if she did not pursue this complaint against me. And because she had had a wreck and she didn't have any car seats for her kids. And they told her they wouldn't take her kids, they wouldn't call CPS if she would go ahead and pursue this matter. So, but that 4 days before the civil rights case in Supreme Court in Cincinnati, they settled out of court. Well, my reason for settling was I didn't have $10,000 to proceed, which my attorneys said that they would need 10,000 4 days before. Now,
Right.
4 days before, my attorneys in Cincinnati said they needed $10,000 to proceed. Their reason for settling out of court is that they knew they were guilty. I had kept every memo, every reprimand, every document,
Yep.
all the index cards,
Exactly.
the spoke. I
Hmm.
had kept everything. They put me through hell, and the public witnessed it. Everyone had police scanners. Everybody heard how they treated me. And I didn't list any
Yeah.
names today, and I didn't say anything today about um, anybody, which I'm not going to. I can't speak about what happened in 2012 anymore. I've already spoke about it, but I've been advised by my attorneys not to, pending legal action um, about a certain someone. But thank you for your time and your patience and your kindness and your respect. And if there's any questions you want to ask me, just go ahead. You have any questions?
Well, I appreciate you, Bev, and see if there's any decent questions in the chat that maybe we can check on. But I gotta ask. So, in one of the articles, I noticed that they were trying to charge you with a felony charge of tampering with evidence. Now, was that because of the ticket that you wrote that woman? Was that the firing thing?
Yes, they said that I tampered with evidence. The ticket, she was well aware that she was getting the ticket because I was letting her drive the car off with expired tags. Uh, there wasn't nothing. She paid the ticket, and but I had marked on the ticket she had no insurance, so she lost her license. So then she called me and threatened me to get her license back. It was a
Right.
done deal. She paid the ticket. I couldn't get her license back, and that was just part of the
Right.
citation. And so, but anyway, she had been to the tanning bed one day at the hot spot here in Ironton, a favorite place of mine to tan. Patty Roberts and Heather Montroso, Heather Williams now. Um, they owned it, and I had went to the bathroom, and there was a purse in the bathroom and had a bunch of cash in it, and it was wide open. So I turned it in to Patty Roberts and the owner, and so it turned out it was Jamie Sparks, the girl I gave the ticket to's purse. So when she came back, said she forgot her purse, I was already gone. And the owner, Patty Roberts, told her, she said, "Don't you want to know who turned it in?" And she said, "Who?" And she said, "Beth Rist." And she said, "Do you have her phone number? Because I need to tell her the truth." So that's when she called me, because if anybody else may have taken the cash, but I'm just not like that. Um, she called me and said she wanted to tell me the truth. That's when all that started, and she testified and all that. But it's all in the book, and
Right.
it's a good read. But you know,
Okay, so where's your
I got
book
fired
going to
on
be
October
at? Where are
28th.
we going to find it?
Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and it's going to be on Audible too. It's running a little
Okay.
behind because I added stuff about YouTube,
Okay.
so
Okay.
it's running a little
Cool.
behind. But
So
it's
we all
but pardon me.
okay, so Lisa is asking, oh, I said we're all going to be famous because you're the part where you're adding about YouTube. I was just joking though. Anyways, Lisa is asking, why did you think that they all hated you? I had answered in the chat that because of the way that they treated you, but why do you think? I think that's what she's asking.
I think personally, I think that they just didn't want a woman around because of their activity, um, and they didn't want. Honestly, I think a lot of them that were having affairs and stuff like that didn't want me to tell their wives. Well, I didn't know any of their wives. I wasn't going to tell anything. That wasn't none of my business. Um, but I didn't talk about them or say anything about them. But I just think they hated that I was in good physical condition and that I was gung ho and I just wanted
Right.
to do my job. You know, I sent you, I think, a picture, but you know, I had pride in my job, and I was always pressed and creased, and my shoes shining, and my cruiser clean, and I had pride in what I did, and they didn't, so they just didn't like me, and
Right.
so I'm sure there's personal reasons, but that's all in the book. Uh, I was just different, and they didn't like it, so. But anyway, is there any other questions?
Yeah. Actually, this is a good question, and Sovereign Soul asked it, and he wants to know, was there nepotism with her becoming a sergeant so quickly? And where are the results of your exam? Do they post those where people can
Yes,
see
they
them?
posted them. They posted them in the dispatch area, and that's public record. And he can find that. All he's got to do is call Pam, and I'm sure she'll. Well, she may not be able to find it. She couldn't find the arrest record of Mr. Lutz, um, but I'm sure that's public record
She
through the
can't find
civil service.
complaint forms either.
The Civil Service
Right.
Commission takes care of the sergeant's test, and they posted it. And there was only three of us that took it, me and Pam and Brian Caskey. Um, so after I got sergeant, Chief Carey told me that I couldn't write anybody up, that sergeants didn't have enough authority. So in the lawsuit, my attorneys passed a paper over to him in Cincinnati in a deposition, and he said he never wrote anybody up when he was sergeant. Well, my attorney said, "Can you read the name at the top of the page?" He said, "Yes, Patrolman Beth Rist." And he said, "Can you read the name at the bottom of the page?" He said, "James P. Carey." And he said, "Is that a reprimand?" He said, "Yes." And so my attorney did that 4 times, and they took a recess because he just quoted under oath that he didn't write anybody up when he was sergeant. But I had 4 memos where I had made copies of them that where he wrote me up. So I mean, which is it?
Right.
So I kept everything, and I don't know. God just must have helped me out with that because I don't know why I kept everything, but I kept it all. And so after I got fired, 1 year after I got fired, I ran for city council and I got elected. Like I told you on a phone conversation, not very many people voted out of 10,000, maybe 4, 5, 6,000. Um, but I got elected, and if I was such a bad cop and so crooked or corrupt, why would the citizens of Ironton vote me for an elected official position? Um, Not once, but 3 times.
Exactly. Because we watched. Yeah, we watched what happened to you. It was in our papers. It was in the news. This town is small. The county is small. We all knew, and especially women. I know because I'm female, and I was excited that a female because it's they're the same. They're mean. They're manipulative. Like them threatening you that if you drop your suit, they'll drop the charges against you. How many times has that happened to anybody
Right.
else? I know that they've done it to me. They've done it to other people. And it's like, they harass. Speaking of harassment, do you believe that Tim and Sarah are being harassed or were being harassed? I
I
do,
truly
but
believe it's my opinion that they're being targeted by police. Yes, they've got proof and they've got video. They're good people, um, and they
yes,
don't bother
yes, they
nobody.
are.
Um, so yeah, that is my
Nope.
opinion that they are when they come to Ironton, and that's a shame that you have to be afraid to
Cool.
come to the city because of the negligence and the cowardice of the police department. Um,
Hmm.
but
I don't like going
yeah,
to Ironton.
I
I'll
believe
be
they
honest because they so. And they especially don't like it when a woman stands up for herself and she knows what she's talking about. So
right,
they don't like that.
right.
Well,
So I
so
just
let me see if there's any other questions in here. Has Beth ever complained about Tim? That doesn't make sense. I don't know why she would ever complain about him.
no, I didn't. I
Hmm.
had a. He said I kept him from getting arrested one time. I don't remember that. I don't remember that was years ago. That out of all them years, I don't remember who all I arrested and who I didn't. Um, but no, why would I complain about Tim?
Right, exactly. That's what I was wanting to know. Why would you? So there was one message in here. Let's see. Were you the first female officer in Ironton? That's Tina Haney's question.
Yes, in the city there was a female in the works for the deputies, the county sheriff, a blonde haired girl. I don't remember her name, but she had long blonde hair. She was the first female of the county, but in the city, I was the first female in the history of the city, 1996,
Right.
and they made a big to do of
I
it in the
think that's cool. I
paper.
remember it was a big thing. Yes, they did. They made a big thing about it in the paper. I remember,
So
and I
that's a
did it. I read it just recently when I researched you. So, oh,
yes, and that was
and
another reason that
you
I
mentioned
wasn't liked.
showing up or trying to get a hold of you to get a book signed. So, are you willing to sign books? I know I already asked for mine.
Yes, I'll be
So,
having a book signing at Cindy's studio. Yes, when it comes
cool.
out, I'll be having a book signing. I'll be having a signing at my sister's studio, Cindy's studio in Ironton. Um, um, I'm not sure when that'll be. Like I said, I've had to add to the book, so the haters can judge all they want. But you've seen the cover, and a friend of mine has read some chapters of it, and I'll send you. I can send you some chapters of it if you want to, if you want me to. Um, but these things got
show
delayed a
that
little bit
right
because of
there.
me.
I sorry, I timed out JR
There's
because you're so
Junior.
inappropriate. I don't know who you are, but I want you to go. I
Three
want
Mountain
JR to
Dews,
go.
Junior. Three Mountain Dews, Junior.
Yeah. Yep. There you go. I'll
It's
try to
noon,
get
my
that
dear
down.
God.
I timed him out and
Well,
oh yeah, okay. So
you
we're not talking about Chili. Someone asked something about Chili. We're not talking about him. We're not talking about
no.
nobody else but Beth Rist and her career. Now, so when you started in the police department, I think we covered this, but when you first started, were you welcomed or did you already feel that it was uneasy?
No, at the beginning, everybody was real nice. It wasn't until I started writing tickets and people asking for me to come to their intersection uh, that other officers started getting mad and wanting me not to pull people over. Um, Now, back then, we didn't have a quota. We didn't get a quota till about 2004, I think. But back in '96, we didn't have a quota. But I would go to intersections and write tickets for people running stop signs, especially where there was children's signs up that said "Children at Play," and um, that's basically it. I mean, it's everything's public record.
Right.
Um, all you got to do is research
Okay.
it, and you can find out the truth.
Yeah, when you go on Google, guys, as soon as you put in Beth, you'll have options. It'll show wrist and it'll have all the articles right there. You can just go on through and read them all. Her court stuff is there and everything. So I have another question. Um, I think it might have slipped my mind. I should have asked it as soon as I butted in, I guess.
You're fine.
Um, yeah, okay. I want to ask you, since I had a problem getting these pictures up, I'm going to go on my community page, guys, and post the pictures up there so you guys can see, what she was talking about. It shows her in high school and what she did through her life and her pictures of her on the force and everything and stuff. So, and how she wore her hair like Farrah Fawcett. I love that. I absolutely love that because I have to say, my granddaughters, they watch Charlie's Angels, the movies. And one of my granddaughters was like, I want to be her when I grow up. Talking about, I think it was Lucy Liu, but I knew what they were saying. So I thought that was like cool. That was the cutest thing. Everybody has someone or something that they admire and want to be when they grow up. So I thought
Right,
that was very interesting. So
right.
all right. Yeah,
Well, I'll
Lisa,
answer any
the
questions.
police department in our area, they're lazy. Like the police are lazy. They do minimal here. And like she was talking about the older men that had been there for a while, you can tell their uniforms aren't pressed. And they wear them a few days in a row. Like their appearance is off. And most of them try to manipulate you. So, I mean, because their goal is to get a charge on you when they're around you. And see, that's what I liked about you is that wasn't your goal. If something happened in front of you, you took care of it, but that wasn't your goal to go out and get people. Like, I'm going to pull somebody over and my goal is to get them in jail today. Like that's how they work. It seems like. So,
Right.
okay, Lisa lives here. Then you should know how the cops are unless you haven't dealt with them. Anyways, so does anybody else have questions? I don't think so. This was
Okay.
interesting. I am glad that you came on. Oh, I do. I remember my question now. The wires. Did we cover that? What about those wires? You
No.
wore a wire for what?
Yes, I wore wire for self-protection. I had a little tape player that
That's
I had
sad.
duct taped to my ankle, and the wire went up through my pant leg, up through my bulletproof vest, and I basically did it because most of the time, well, not most of the time, but a lot of the time I didn't have backup. And so at night when I worked midnights or evening turn, I could record who I pulled over, and so I would have record of what happened. We didn't have body cams back then, so and then I was getting threatened at work,
Hmm.
so I recorded it. I turned it on when I went in the station, and when people made remarks about me, or just like when I went to my union rep and asked him for help. Because I was being harassed. I wanted to
Yeah.
file a
And
gr-
they
I wanted to file a grievance, and he told me that the chief knew what was going on, and for me not to rock the boat. And I have it on tape. So that I had that was a
see,
part of the lawsuit.
that's another thing to put. Yeah. And you worked there and you had a hard time filing a grievance. So citizens have a hard time filing a grievance. I mean, how do you pull someone's jacket? Like if we wanted to know, how do we do that?
Um, oh, I have everything that was in my jacket, but I don't think that's public record. But I might be wrong, but I
Really?
don't think that's public record.
Okay. Hmm. All right. Well, if there isn't anything else, I think this was a great interview, Beth. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for your
I
respect
know
and
it's
kindness.
valuable. You're very welcome. I appreciate it. All right, guys. I'm out. You all have a good day. Bye, Beth. Thank you.
Goodbye. You're welcome. Thank you.